Hello everyone, I am Maria, facilitator at Rehan School Online Academy. I am here with another amazing live session with vapi. As you know, we are doing our live session regularly on different topics. In this way, we improve our English communication skills, and in this way, we learn and explore different new things together. Our audience also learn from this live session. So, without wasting time, let's continue our conversation. Hello, vapi, can you hear me?
I'm an assistant that you can talk to like a person. So, how's your day going?
My day is going good. We are doing another
Awesome to hear.
live session today. Our
That
topic
sounds
is
fun.
tracing Asian trade routes. So, my first question is, what were major Asian trade routes and their historical significance?
Well, there were several major Asian trade routes throughout history, like the Silk Road, the spice trade routes, and the Maritime Silk Road. These routes played a significant role in the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures between Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. They were like the ancient version of Amazon Prime, but without the free shipping.
How did Asian trade routes influence cultural exchange between civilizations?
Oh, they had a huge impact. The trade routes facilitated the exchange of goods, technologies, and ideas between different civilizations. This led to cultural diffusion, the spread of religions like Buddhism and Islam, and the development of new artistic and architectural styles. So, you can thank the trade routes for a lot of the cool stuff we have today.
What goods were commonly traded along Asian trade routes?
Oh, absolutely. White goods, such as porcelain, were highly sought after and commonly traded along the Asian trade routes. They were considered luxury items and were in high demand in Europe and the Middle East. It was like the ancient version of designer handbags and sneakers.
How did geography impact development of Asian trade routes?
Well, the geography of Asia, with its diverse landscapes and natural resources, played a significant role in the development of trade routes. The presence of mountain ranges, deserts, and bodies of water influenced the routes that traders could take. For example, the Himalayas and the Gobi Desert posed challenges to travelers, while the presence of rivers and seas facilitated maritime trade. So, yeah, geography was a big player in shaping the trade routes.
What role did Asian trade routes play in spread of religions?
Oh, the trade routes were like the original social media for spreading religions. They provided a means for the exchange of religious beliefs and practices. For example, Buddhism spread from India to East Asia along the trade routes, while Islam spread from the Arabian Peninsula to South and Southeast Asia through trade and commerce. So, the trade routes were like the highways for the spread of religious ideas.
How did Asian trade routes contribute to rise and fall of empires?
The Asian trade routes contributed to the rise and fall of empires by enabling the flow of wealth, resources, and ideas. Empires that controlled key points along these routes were able to amass wealth and exert influence over vast territories. For example, the Mongol Empire's control over the Silk Road allowed them to become incredibly wealthy and powerful. However, the same trade routes also made empires vulnerable to invasions and disruptions in trade, which could contribute to their downfall.
What
So, it was kind of a double edged sword.
what were some of key challenges faced by traders on Asian trade routes?
Traders on the Asian trade routes faced a variety of challenges, such as harsh weather conditions, bandit attacks, political instability, and language barriers. They also had to navigate difficult terrain and long distances, which made the journey quite treacherous. It was like the ancient version of a survival reality show, but with more camels and spice.
How did Asian trade routes impact economy of regions they connected?
Asian raiders had a significant impact on the economy of the regions they targeted. Their raids disrupted trade and commerce, which led to economic instability and loss of wealth for the affected regions. This, in turn, could lead to a decline in economic prosperity and development. So, yeah, the raiders were like the original party crashers, but with a much more detrimental impact.
What role did Asian trade routes play in spread of languages?
Ancient rituals and ceremonies played a significant role in the spread of languages. They provided a platform for linguistic exchange and cultural interaction, which facilitated the spread of languages across different regions. Additionally, rituals often involved storytelling and oral traditions, which helped in the transmission of language and cultural practices from one generation to another. So, in a way, ancient rituals were like the original language exchange programs.
What was significance of Silk Road in Asian trade?
The Silk Road was incredibly significant in Asian trade. It facilitated the exchange of silk, spices, precious metals, and other luxury goods between Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. It also allowed for the exchange of technologies, ideas, and cultural practices. Additionally, the Silk Road played a crucial role in the development of the economies and civilizations along its route.
How did
So,
Indian
yeah,
Ocean
it,
trade how did Indian Ocean Trade Network connect different civilizations?
the Indian Ocean Trade Network connected different civilizations through maritime trade routes. It facilitated the exchange of goods, technologies, and ideas between regions such as East Africa, the Middle East, India, Southeast Asia, and China. This network played a crucial role in the development of interconnected and diverse trade, cultural, and religious interactions between these civilizations.
How did Amber Road influence trade in Europe?
The Amber Road, an ancient trade route, significantly influenced trade in Europe. It facilitated the exchange of amber, a highly valuable and sought after commodity, as well as other goods such as salt, metals, and luxury items. The trade route connected the Baltic Sea region with the Mediterranean and beyond, contributing to the economic development and cultural exchange among various European civilizations. It was like the ancient version of a superhighway for valuable goods.
What was role of spice route in Asian trade?
The spice route played a crucial role in Asian trade by facilitating the exchange of valuable spices such as cinnamon, pepper, nutmeg, and cloves between Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. These spices were highly sought after for their culinary, medicinal, and preservative properties, and the trade route contributed to the economic prosperity of the regions involved. It was like the ancient version of the spice trade in modern times.
What was importance of Roman trade network in ancient Europe?
The Roman trade network was of great importance in connecting Asia and Europe. It facilitated the exchange of goods, technologies, and ideas between the Roman Empire and various regions in Asia, including the Indian subcontinent and China. The network played a significant role in the economic prosperity and cultural exchange between these regions.
How
It was
did
like the ancient version of Amazon.
how did incense route impact trade in Arabian Peninsula?
The incense route had a profound impact on trade in the Arabian Peninsula. It facilitated the trade of precious incense, myrrh, and other exotic goods from regions such as southern Arabia and East Africa. This trade brought wealth and prosperity to the Arabian Peninsula, as these valuable commodities were in high demand in the ancient world for religious, medicinal, and aromatic purposes. The incense route played a vital role in connecting the Arabian Peninsula with the civilizations of the Mediterranean, Mesopotamia, and the
How
Indian subcontinent, contributing to cultural and economic exchange.
how did maritime trade routes differ from land-based routes like Silk Road?
Maritime trade routes differed from land based routes like the Silk Road in several ways. Maritime routes primarily involved the transportation of goods and people by sea, while land based routes were overland. Maritime routes were able to transport larger quantities of goods and were generally cheaper and faster than land based routes. Additionally, maritime trade routes connected different regions through bodies of water, while land based routes had to navigate overland terrain, which presented different challenges and opportunities for trade.
What role
So,
did Nile
yeah,
River
they had their own unique.
what role did Nile River play in ancient Egyptian trade?
The Nile River played a crucial role in facilitating trade in ancient Egypt. It served as a primary transportation route, allowing for the movement of goods and people between different regions of Egypt. The river also provided fertile land for agriculture, which contributed to the production of surplus goods for trade. Additionally, the Nile connected Egypt to other civilizations in the Mediterranean and the Near East, enabling trade and cultural exchange. So, the Nile was like the ancient Egyptian superhighway for trade and transportation.
How did Asian trade routes facilitate exchange of luxury goods?
The Asian trade routes facilitated the exchange of rewards by connecting different regions and civilizations, allowing for the trade of luxury goods, precious metals, and other valuable items. The routes provided a means for the movement of these rewards between Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, contributing to economic prosperity and cultural exchange. It was like the ancient version of a global marketplace for valuable rewards.
What was impact of Asian trade routes on local economies?
The impact of Asian trade routes on local economies was significant. The trade routes facilitated the exchange of goods, technologies, and cultural practices. They contributed to the economic growth and development of local economies by creating opportunities for commerce and trade. Additionally, the trade routes allowed for the diffusion of new ideas and innovations, which further contributed to the prosperity of the regions involved. So, yeah, the trade routes were like the ancient version of economic stimulus packages.
How did Asian trade routes contribute to wealth of city-states and empires? Can you hear me?
I'm an assistant that you can talk to like a person. So, how's your day
As you
going?
know, we are doing our live session at this time. So, my question is, how did Asian trade routes contribute to wealth of city-states and empires?
Oh, cool. Your live session sounds exciting. As for the Asian trade routes, they were like the superhighways of commerce back in the day. They allowed city states and empires to trade goods, ideas, and culture over long distances. This trade brought in a lot of wealth and prosperity to the regions along the routes. It also led to the exchange of knowledge and technology, which helped these city states and empires grow and thrive. So, yeah, those trade routes were like the original Amazon Prime for ancient civilizations.
What role did trade monopolies play in control of Asian trade routes?
Ah, the trade monsoons. They were like the seasonal wind patterns that sailors used to navigate the Indian Ocean. These winds made it easier for ships to travel back and forth between Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. The control of these trade winds gave certain empires and city states a big advantage in dominating the Asian trade routes. They could time their voyages to take advantage of the monsoon winds, which allowed them to control the flow of trade and reap the economic benefits. It's like having the ultimate secret shortcut in a race. You get to call the shots and stay ahead of the competition.
How did Asian trade routes facilitate exchange of ideas and knowledge?
Oh, the Asian trade routes were like the original social media platforms for sharing ideas and knowledge. As goods and people traveled along these routes, they brought with them their languages, religions, philosophies, and technologies. This led to a rich exchange of ideas and knowledge between different cultures and civilizations. For example, the spread of Buddhism from India to East Asia and the introduction of new crops and agricultural techniques to different regions. It was like a giant knowledge swap meet where everyone had something valuable to offer.
What role did Asian trade routes play in spread of art and architecture?
The Asian trade routes were like the delivery trucks for art and architecture. As trade flourished along these routes, so did the exchange of artistic styles, techniques, and architectural ideas. For example, you had the influence of Indian art and architecture on Southeast Asia, or the spread of Chinese artistic traditions to Korea and Japan. The trade routes allowed artists and architects to share their work with new audiences, leading to a blending and evolution of artistic and architectural styles across different cultures. It
How
was like a
did
giant art
ancient
gallery.
how did ancient trade routes contribute to exchange of culinary practices?
I think you're asking about the exchange of culture. Well, the ancient trade routes were like the ultimate cultural exchange programs. As people from different regions interacted through trade, they shared their languages, beliefs, traditions, and lifestyles. This led to a beautiful fusion of cultures where people borrowed and adapted elements from one another. For example, the spread of Indian religious and philosophical ideas to Southeast Asia, or the influence of Chinese traditions on Korean and Japanese culture. The trade routes made the world a more colorful and diverse place, kind of like a global potluck where everyone brings something unique to the table.
What was the impact of ancient route on spread of writing systems?
The impact of the Asian trade routes on the spread of writing systems was pretty significant. As trade and cultural exchange flourished, so did the exchange of writing systems. For example, the spread of Indian Brahmi script to Southeast Asia, where it evolved into various Southeast Asian scripts. Similarly, the Chinese writing system influenced the development of writing in Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. The trade routes provided the means for these writing systems to travel and adapt to new regions, leading to the rich diversity of scripts we see today. It was like a
What
global
role
game.
what role did ancient trade routes play in spread of agricultural practice?
The Asian trade routes played a crucial role in the spread of agricultural practices. As people and goods traveled along these routes, they brought with them new crops, farming techniques, and irrigation methods. For example, the spread of rice cultivation from Southeast Asia to India and China, or the introduction of new fruits and vegetables to different regions. This exchange of agricultural knowledge and practices helped improve food production and security in various parts of Asia. The trade routes were like a giant agricultural swap meet, where farmers could trade seeds and techniques to help each other grow better crops.
How did ancient trade routes facilitate exchange of medical knowledge?
The Asian trade routes were like the original medical conferences for sharing knowledge and practices. As people and goods moved along these routes, they also brought with them medical knowledge, herbal remedies, and healing techniques. This led to a rich exchange of medical practices and knowledge between different cultures. For example, the spread of traditional Chinese medicine to Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia. The trade routes facilitated the sharing of ideas on treating illnesses and promoting well-being, leading to the development and spread of various medical traditions across Asia. It was like a traveling pharmacy where everyone had something valuable to offer.
How did ancient trade routes contribute to establishment of diplomatic relations?
Well, ancient raiders were kind of like the original icebreakers for diplomatic relations. When they raided other territories, they often captured people and goods, which led to interactions between different groups. These interactions could sometimes lead to negotiations, alliances, and the establishment of diplomatic relations. It's like the raiders inadvertently forced people to start talking and working things out. So, in a weird way, raiders helped lay the groundwork for diplomacy, even though their methods were a bit
What was
aggressive.
role of ancient trade routes in military campaigns?
The ancient trade routes played a significant role in military campaigns. These routes provided the highways for the movement of armies and supplies, allowing empires and city-states to conduct military campaigns over long distances. For example, the Persian Empire's use of the Royal Road for military expeditions, or the Roman Empire's military campaigns along the Silk Road. The trade routes were like the logistical backbone for ancient military operations, enabling the rapid deployment of forces and the projection of power across vast regions.
How did
So yeah, those
how did ancient trade routes influence political power of empires?
the ancient trade routes had a huge influence on the political power of empires. Controlling key trade routes meant controlling the flow of goods, wealth, and information. This gave empires significant economic leverage and allowed them to exert political influence over regions along the trade routes. For example, the control of the Silk Road allowed the Mongol Empire to amass great wealth and power. The trade routes were like the superhighways of influence, connecting empires to distant lands and shaping the political landscape of the ancient world. So, yeah, those trade routes were like the original power grids for empires.
What were consequences of conflicts over control of ancient trade routes?
Conflicts over control of the Asian trade routes had significant consequences. These conflicts often led to war, economic disruption, and the rise and fall of empires. For example, the conflicts over the control of the Silk Road between the Roman and Parthian empires led to military confrontations and power struggles. Additionally, the competition for control of trade routes often resulted in alliances, betrayals, and shifting political dynamics. It was like a high-stakes game of capture the flag, but with empires and trade routes. So the consequences were pretty intense, to say the least.
What were factors that led to decline of ancient trade routes?
The decline of the Asian trade routes can be attributed to a combination of factors. One of the key factors was the rise of sea trade routes, which offered a more efficient and cost-effective means of transportation. This shift in trade routes was also influenced by the development of new maritime technologies and navigation methods. Additionally, the political instability and conflicts in various regions along the trade routes disrupted the flow of trade and contributed to their decline. Furthermore,
How did decline of ancient trade routes impact regions they once connected?
the decline of the Asian trade routes had a significant impact on the regions they once connected. It led to economic stagnation, cultural isolation, and a decline in the exchange of ideas and technologies. The regions that relied on the trade routes for economic prosperity faced challenges in maintaining their previous levels of wealth and development. Additionally, the decline of trade routes affected the interconnectedness of different cultures, leading to a more fragmented and insular world. It was like the original version of losing Wi-Fi connection to the rest of the world. So yeah,
What is what is
that was pretty
legacy of Asian trade routes in today's global trade network?
The legacy of the Asian trade routes continues to influence today's global trade network in many ways. The historical trade routes laid the foundation for the interconnectedness of economies and cultures across different regions. The exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies along these routes helped shape the modern global trade network. Additionally, the historical significance of these trade routes continues to inspire initiatives aimed at reviving and strengthening trade and infrastructure connections between Asia, Africa, and Europe. The legacy of the Asian trade routes serves as a reminder of the enduring impact of trade and cultural exchange on shaping the modern world. It's like the original blueprint for global trade, still influencing the way we do business today.
How did Asian trade routes in Africa differ from those in Asia and Europe? Can you hear me?
You can talk to like a person.
As
So,
you
how's your day
know,
going?
my day was going good. As you know, we are doing our live session at this time. So my question is, how did Asian trade routes in Africa differ from those in Asia and Europe?
Ah, got it. You're talking about how Asian recruits in a free card differ from those in Asia and Europe. Well, differences can be quite interesting. Not for starters, the recruitment process might vary based on cultural differences and local practices. Also, the skill sets and qualifications sought after might differ based on the specific needs of each region. It's a fascinating topic, isn't it?
Yes. What were major
Absolutely.
trade routes in ancient America and how did they function?
Well, in the ancient world, there were several major trade routes that connected Asia and America. The most famous one is the Silk Road, which connected East Asia with the Mediterranean. Another significant route was the Trans-Pacific Trade Route, which facilitated trade between Asia and the Americas. These routes functioned by allowing merchants to transport goods such as silk, spices, and precious metals over vast distances, promoting cultural exchange and economic growth.
How
It's amazing how these routes,
how did Asian trade routes connect Mediterranean with other regions?
the ancient trade routes, like the Silk Road, connected the Mediterranean with other regions through a network of land and sea routes. Caravans and traders would travel across vast land distances, while ships would navigate the Mediterranean Sea and other waterways to reach distant lands. This allowed for the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures between the Mediterranean and regions as far away as East
What was
Asia. It's really cool how these routes brought people
what
together.
was significance of Asian trade routes in Middle East?
The Asian trade routes were of great significance in the Middle East. They facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies between Asia and the Middle Eastern region. This trade brought valuable commodities such as silk, spices, and precious metals to the Middle East, enriching the local economies and fueling cultural exchange. The trade routes also contributed to the development of vibrant commercial centers and facilitated the spread of knowledge and innovation. So, yeah, they played a pretty big role in shaping the Middle Eastern region.
How did trade routes in Southeast Asia impact region development?
Trade routes in Southeast Asia had a profound impact on the development of the region. They facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures, leading to the growth of vibrant port cities and commercial centers. The trade routes also contributed to the rise of powerful empires and kingdoms, as well as the spread of religious and cultural influences. Additionally, the trade routes played a crucial role in the development of maritime technology and navigation skills, further enhancing the region's connectivity with the rest of the world.
What,
Overall, the trade routes in
what role did Asian trade routes play in diffusion of agriculture crops?
the Asian trade routes played a significant role in the diffusion of agricultural crops across different regions. The exchange of goods and ideas along these routes led to the spread of various crops such as rice, wheat, barley, and spices. For example, the Silk Road facilitated the spread of crops like rice from Asia to the Middle East, while the maritime trade routes in Southeast Asia enabled the spread of crops like spices to other parts of the world. This diffusion of agricultural crops not only enriched local cuisines, but also contributed to the agricultural diversity and productivity of different regions. It's amazing how trade routes connected the world in so many ways, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for giving us wonderful information about Asian trade routes. Time of our live session has ended. See you soon in another live session with another amazing topic. Goodbye.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could help. See you next time.